you're seeing companies now going beyond just the economics of it and looking at their supply chain as a whole in terms of emissions.
Yep,
And
exactly.
I know that plastic plays a big part of that.
Yep.
So I'm very curious as to how does the supply chain get transformed and looking at either your classic plastic or your virgin plastic and then this recycled plastic option. Does that have an impact when you're calculating your emissions and the different scope of emissions?
Definitely, yeah, because if you're, every time you're using recycled plastics, you're not reproducing, and the chemical side of it, the heat that's required and all that. So there's if you look at the, I guess, a life cycle analysis of a virgin plastic versus a recycled one, you're reducing your emissions by retaking. A lot of companies are looking at that ultimate goal of producing a bottle, sending it to the consumer, and then it makes it back and makes it back into another bottle, and the bottle to bottle dream. With the type of collecting that's being done now, is that 100% possible? Probably not. There's also one limitation that's, and this goes back to my old life in marketing. We're very strict on the color codes, right? So going back to the Habs, the blue is a certain blue, the red's a certain red. So if I make a product, it needs to be that red and that blue. Well, if I had some pellets with me, if I take a bale of HDP plastic, which comes from a lot from your detergent bottles, milk jugs, more in the States, put that all together, and we get a light green. So based on the fact that that's a light green, it's kind of hard to go back to a pure yellow. So that's where I guess the art side comes in. It's like, what colors can be done from this? Ultimately, in a lot of our products, in our case, so take a drainage pipe, it's black. It's under the ground. The color is not as important. That's one of those like perfect products for recycled. Something that's more consumer facing, that's where you'll get a bit of a clash between, okay, great, what can we reintegrate into it? What colors can we generate? And is marketing okay with that? Is the company okay with that? There's also the FDA side of things. So if something is within food contact, then there's more regulation that comes into play. So think of a medical syringe. Evidently, you're putting medicine inside your body. Will you want that to be done from recycled materials with less control? Maybe not. But there's another gamma of products that they're making with virgin right now that could be 100% recycled for sure. So it's I think there's a lot of work on both the marketing side of things, of understanding what can be done with recycled materials and start asking that question. I think businesses going out, and I think I love it when someone reaches out on LinkedIn and says, and sometimes there'll be smaller companies doing a product like, what if I did this in recycled? What are the limitations that I should consider? And sometimes they're impressed by how close to a specification that they have of their product that we can get to. And that it can be used if they only tweak a bit what they want to, what their final product is going to look like. So there's a lot of work on that side, marketing wise. On the chemistry side, evidently, the better our recycling gets, the better the sorting is done, the better we'll get to it too. Because in terms of, I'm looking out here to the plant. So if someone sells us a full truckload of blue drums that are coming out of the agricultural side, they're being grinded and washed, and they're all 100% blue. Well, I'm looking out here, and there's one that's white, so clearly not the same color. So if you blend that in, you just played a big part on the color side. So there's a lot of identification that needs to be done by people that actually know what plastics they're identifying, and a lot of technologies are coming out. We were at the plastic show in Washington, and they've got now these live scanners with artificial intelligence, and live scan a product, and it'll tell you exactly which plastic is in it. So that definitely helps your driver on the lift look at a box, and other than just knowing at a certain point by experience, and being able to identify it, using that technology to scan and say, okay, great, I'm confirmed this is the plastic I'm looking for. Let's put it back into the recipe. So there's a lot of that too that comes into play.
Well, super exciting to hear that there's new technology coming out that's going to help facilitate this process as well. I work with a number of different product managers and engineers, and am aware of, at least to a certain extent, the kind of thought process that goes into designing a product. So let's say if you have someone who is looking to create a product that includes plastic, and it can be virgin or recycled plastics,
Yeah.
are there any considerations that those product designers need to keep in mind in terms of the way they create their product to ensure that at the end of the life that the product
Yeah.
can be recycled? Things
Yeah.
like glue or paint, does that have an impact, or at the end of the day, plastic is
Yeah.
plastic?
Sometimes one of the big things is thinking about using as much as possible the same plastic within a design.
Hmm.
We'll look at products around you, and sometimes for the look of it, you'll add an ABS product because it's stiffer on one side. You wanted to create an effect on another side or a texture, and then you'll start mixing a bunch of plastics together. Well, once that's grinded back and the sorters come in, can they detect that part, and is it able to sort it back? So that's definitely one consideration in terms of, is there a way of doing this in one single, so there's only one label at the bottom that says this is HGP 100%, the bottle, the cap, the enclosure, everything that's in it, it's 100% HGP. That's a lot easier to recycle. One thing that I've been getting into and I find really interesting is on the American side, the Association of Plastic Recyclers. They've come out with the APR design guide. So they're now putting out there a full documentation for the engineers to say, here are the considerations of making a recyclable product. And then I guess the next step will be, here are the considerations of integrating recycled products within your design where possible. So I think that's one big change with these organizations. They're doing a lot more research, and where I think the big push, and that's why I think there's a lot more company interest. You can feel that there's some regulations coming in terms of
Yeah.
EPR, so the extended producer responsibility. So whatever packaging you put out, make sure that you can actually take back, and that you create that circle effect of creating demand for recycled materials, because that's probably the way the industry will get to work, is if there's always a constant demand of bringing it back, and it's not just another option to virgin, because when prices are where they are out now, again, we understand some customers, some of the customers saying, well, there's rail cars and rail cars available of virgin plastic. We're going to run this for this year. But if there is
Yeah.
that, either the internal commitment, which is probably the best one, because you really feel, we have some of our customers that we're going recycled,
Values-based
and
decision.
it's
Yeah.
and it's it's within their product that they sell. So if they're selling to a lead certified building builder, and here's the outside skirt, and here's the guarantee that it's made of 85% recycled plastics, then they're saying 85 because they need to incorporate that other percentage of virgin plastics for the design and the structure and what it needs to be done. Well, at least it's there, and it's their own commitment, and we can feel that on our side, because they'll come back to us and say, here are the modifications we need to make. Here are products that we have that were scrapped. Can we put them back in? Will we get the same specifications? So that side of internal commitment. But then if we add this layer of, the talks now are coming into, they're going to be aiming for about 30% recycled materials within your design to be integrated. Again, now we're talking about American law, and we know all the layers of
Yeah.
government there. So there's some states that are pushing it faster than others. Here in Quebec, Recyc Quebec has mandated Eco-Entreprise Quebec to take care of the EPR. So as of January 1st, 2025, they will be kind of taking over 100% of making sure that producers are reintegrating materials and putting those laws into place. So I think the next couple of years will be very interesting in terms of what does get set, what kind of limitations, barriers, but to make sure that there's supply and demand, and it's the right one. Because you will be a lot in the States. You'll hear a lot about the FDA approved
Mhm.
recycled plastic. So the milk jug, which we don't have in Canada, we're still milk bags. But the milk jug is that kind of perfect plastic product that if you take it from the curbside, wash it, grind it, put it back, it's reapproved to go into the material. And since it's almost clear, then color wise you can do whatever you want with it. But that's a limited supply.
Right.
So that's where I think that's the first easy design. Can people go into the actual of what we get? So like I was saying, here in Quebec, ours tend to be the bales that we grind and wash end up being a light green. In the States, it might be more, bring out brands out there so we can think about the color. So a Tide bottle will introduce a lot more red within the state. evidently the color is going to change of the recycled product there too. So looking at the design in terms of that. So yeah, so to go back to your question, yeah, people are designing a product. There are resources now on the APR. They've got that design guide that's out. I know it's being translated in multiple languages and kind of being accepted by other organizations in each country, or some of the plastic packs too. And that's a great starting point. And those people there are there to increase the demand of recycled plastics and to help these companies towards let's hit all the specifications you need, the regulations in your industry, but here's the way to do it with making insurance recyclable.